The Shark Deck.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Did you see we hit the debt limit? Jimmy Fallon said the country's so strapped for cash. George Santos is emailing people pretending to be a Nigerian prince. Fallon again. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said extraordinary measures are being taken to keep the government's bills paid, which explains why tonight Mitch McConnell started an OnlyFans. Leslie Jones hosted The Daily Show last week. She said America's so broke, the government might have to resort to extraordinary measures like taxing the rich or not going to war all the time, but James Corden for the win. If you ask me, this is where we could use Donald Trump. I didn't like the guy, but you've got to admit he's pretty good at not paying money that he owes. Some podcast recommendations for you. I had a very long drive over the weekend and kind of caught up on everything. Oh man, this next thing is so awesome. I'm so mad I didn't listen to it in time. There's an episode of Kill Tony. Are you familiar with Kill Tony? The premise of Kill Tony is amateurs, civilians. They get up and they do 1 minute of stand-up. Some of them are good. Some of them are awful. It's very funny. The guest back in November was Tim Dillon, who stayed in character the entire episode as Amy Schumer. And it was very, very funny. The comedians who randomly were drawn out of a hat that weekend, they were pretty good. So the podcast you want to check out is called Kill Tony. Go back to November and find the Tim Dillon episode. I'm mad at myself. Had I listened to it in 2022, this would have been way up there on my funniest things of 2022 list. It may have come in third or fourth. Maybe Shang Wang's special is a little better, but this would have been top 5 for sure. Kill Tony, the guest is Tim Dillon. Check that out for sure. I also checked out the Kill Tony episode with Joe Rogan. Now that one, not as good. Why? The random people that got up out of the audience were all terrible. Tony, your host, can often get a lot of fun out of that, but that episode just wasn't as good. I switched over to Neil Brennan's podcast. I've been on a Neil Brennan kick. His guest was Andrew Santino. Get out your daily comedy news bingo card. Yes, I have mentioned Andrew Santino yet again, and it was okay. And then I kind of got bored, so I switched over to Neil Brennan with Sebastian Maniscalco, and I wasn't feeling Sebastian at all, and then I unfollowed the podcast. Sorry, Neil Brennan. I saw today as I put together the podcast, the guest on Two Bears, One Cave. That's the podcast hosted by Tom Segura and Bert Krieshcer. The guest, Louis C.K., the very canceled Louis C.K., getting a rare media appearance, so good to see Louis C.K. getting out. From the laugh button, the Patrice O'Neal benefit returns to New York City for its 10th year. No joke, yesterday morning, I was talking to my wife about Patrice O'Neal. She was telling me a story about somebody who was kind of being a jerk, and it reminded me, as she talked about the jerky person, of Patrice O'Neal. I know the comedians love Patrice. I never enjoyed that man's company. He would come at you, and it wasn't fun. Like if he walked in the room right now, he'd be like, oh, so you're hosting a podcast? And your whole reaction to him coming at you would just be like, dude, F off. Like just not a fun person to be around. I never really was sure if he was just constantly doing an act, because he would do this to every single person he encountered. And maybe when you went in the back room, he was awesome. So I don't know if he was actually like that or chose to constantly act like that, but I did not enjoy the man. Anyway. The Patrice O'Neal benefit returns to New York City for its 10th year. It'll be at the New York City Center April 4th at 7:30. Friends of the late Patrice O'Neal will host a show in honor of the influential comedian who passed away in 2011. This week's lineup, Amer, Bill Burr, Shane Gillis, Robert Kelly, Eleanor Kerrigan, Jim Norton, Keith Robinson, Coogan Sounds, Ricky Velez, and Rich Vos. Rich Vos as well. Boy, Johnny bringing it today. I know somebody who played golf with Rich last year. And the first thing the person did was said, do you know Rich Vos? And I'm like, yeah, ran him a couple of times a million years ago. He's not really the biggest comedian in the world. And the golfer friend was just telling me what a jerk Rich Vos is. Johnny Mac, do you just hate all comedians? No, not at all. Jeff Foxworthy is a lovely guy. I was actually sharing with somebody yesterday, there's a Jamie Foxx commercial right now on television, and at some point Fox goes, oh snap, and then goes into some dialogue. That's exactly how Jamie Foxx is in real life. If you see that commercial, that's what Jamie's like in real life. I like Jamie Foxx. I like Jim Norton. I just mentioned Jim Norton. I don't hate all comedians. I love Kathleen Madigan, and she's got a new special coming up. Kathleen Madigan Hunting Bigfoot, coming to Amazon February 21st. This one was recorded at the Paramount Theater in Denver, Colorado. Explores topics including Kathleen's aging parents interactions with millennials, and as you might have guessed, hunting Bigfoot. Looking forward to that one. The Guardian did a Q&A with Patton Oswalt. They must have been fielding questions on Twitter. One of the questions asked you, Patton Oswalt, why do you think Hollywood is so obsessed with casting beautiful people? Patton Oswalt said, I think it's the sunlight out here. It's very harsh and unforgiving, so you've got to have an unforgiving level of beauty to exist, whereas England has that wonderful gloom which lights up the crevices and the crags on people's faces, so you end up valuing the acting way more than the look. Patton, do you have any food crutches that get you through filming? Patton said, really strong tea and hard sourdough pretzels. I can crunch them and drown out the dialogue. Patton, how do you strike a balance between joy and outrage, especially given our slow-rolling apocalypse? Patton said, I try to accept each one as they come. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of real outrage every now and then, as long as it hasn't permanently chased joy from you. Patton, if you could strike one movie from your filmography, which one would it be? Patton said, I don't judge films the way a viewer judges them. They were all really fun experiences. Even if some of the movies didn't come out great, I wouldn't want to lose any of those memories, so I'm not striking any of them, keeping them all. Patton Oswalt is out making the rounds promoting I Love My Dad, which is now available for digital download. Some quick hits. Moon Tower Comedy Festival added a not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th show for Theo Von. Theo Von, quietly a giant in comedy, one of the top-rated podcasts. 7 shows. That's a lot of shows at a comedy festival. Congrats, man. Night Court, which came out last week in the reboot, 7.55 million viewers. That's a pretty big number in 2023. As a comparison, the cool show this month is HBO's The Last of Us, and I think some number like between 4 and 5 million watched that. Football does 20 or 30 million. The World Series does around 10 million. So 7.5 million for Night Court? Pretty impressive. Nate Bargatze's on The Tonight Show tonight. How I Met Your Father Season 2 is back for some reason. That's on Hulu. Wanda Sykes is your guest host on The Daily Show this week. She's wrong for that show. I'm sorry. She's not going to be good at The Daily Show. It's just the wrong style of comedy for that show. Did you watch SNL this week? It wasn't bad. Couple people I want to spotlight. Bowen Yang crushing it as George Santos. The opening sketch where they did Fox football was terrible. The impressions all the way around were pretty bad, specifically the Howie Long impression. I don't know what that was. Even James Austin Johnson, who normally crushes it, his Jimmy Johnson was not particularly strong. But then Bowen Yang showed up as George Santos and saved the opening, and he really crushed it. Then Bowen showed up on the news, going back and forth with Colin Jost on the news. George Santos claimed to be the first African-American quarterback to dunk a football. That was pretty funny. I noticed they were showcasing Molly Kearney this week for the first time. They hadn't really given Molly a lot of run. Not sure I'm seeing what Lorne is seeing, but who has the better comedy resume between Lorne Michaels and I? Slight edge to Lorne, like a little. So what do I know? Mikey Day, I never really noticed before, doesn't kill in sketches at all. That popped out to me. And Kenan Thompson, always just the MVP there. Bowen Yang is fantastic. Would like to see more Sarah Sherman, guys. Let's get more Sarah out there. The British Comedy Guide has the nominees for the National Comedy Awards 2023. These are Channel 4 UK's National Comedy Awards. The nominations are Best Scripted Comedy, Ghosts. You know that from American CBS version. Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Not sure what it is, but it appears to be 3 puppets. I'm intrigued. Let's see. Comedy series spoofing children's television and friendly puppet-based learning. That looks fun. Dairy Girls, Afterlife with Ricky Gervais. I'm going to vote for Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, just because it seems different. Best Comedy Entertainment Show, The Graham Norton Show, Mortimer and Whitehouse Gone Fishing, Taskmaster, The Chris and Rose Ramsey Show. Again, I don't know most of these shows. Taskmaster, that's boring. What's the Gone Fishing Show? Brits are like, what do you mean you don't know what Mortimer and Whitehouse is, you dumb yank? Paul Whitehouse and Bob Mortimer fish together. That's not much of a help, that description there. Oh, here we go. Paul Whitehouse is an experienced fisherman. Bob Mortimer is a complete novice. Their friendship stretches back, blah, blah, blah. And they go fishing. You know what? That's different. I love Graham Norton, but I feel like he's probably won this thing 27 times. So let's give it to the fishing show. Best Comedy Panel Show, Mock the Week. 8 out of 10 Cats does Countdown. QI, Would I Lie to You? Jimmy Carr is on 8 out of 10 Cats, so I'm, of course, going to vote for Jimmy Carr. If you listen all the time, you know he's one of my faves. Best Comedy Podcast, Parenting Hell, Shagged, Married, Annoyed, Off Menu with Ed Gamble and James A. Caster, Have a Word with Adam Rowe and Dan Nightingale. I don't know. I haven't heard any of these. Actually, I've heard Off Menu, and I kind of like James A. Kester. I'll vote for that. Outstanding Comedy Actress, Rose Matafeo, Saoirse Monica Jackson, Sharon Horgan, Charlotte Ritchie, Daisy May Cooper. Haven't seen any of their projects. I will pass my vote. Outstanding Comedy Actor, Dylan Llewellyn, Ricky Gervais, Joseph Gilgun, Keel Smith Bino, and Stephen Merchant. So it's Stephen Merchant versus Ricky Gervais. Now, Stephen Merchant's up for Outlaws, which I've seen. Ricky Gervais for Afterlife. I got to give it to Ricky, plus his speech will be better. Although, if you ever get to see Stephen Merchant do stand-up, run. He's really, really funny. I saw him, where was that show? I think that was Chicago. I think that was, one of the Chicagos was amazing. I think Stephen Merchant was the same one with Tim Minchin and Hannibal Buress. Oh, I have a story. I'm so stupid. So my road trip over the weekend, I went to see a student production of Matilda. Now, when I go see a show, I don't like to know anything about a show at all. I just like to go see it. Now, what I knew about Matilda going in was the music was by Tim Minchin. Tim Minchin, the Brit/Aussie comedian. I thought Matilda was going to be about a boxing kangaroo. Now, you're either like, oh, I see what you did there, or you're like, what the hell are you talking about? I was a child in 1978. There's a movie called Matilda. The plot: a small-time talent agent discovers an amazing boxing kangaroo and figures to use him as his stepping stone into the big time by having a compete with a human boxer. Starring Elliot Gould. I think I saw this movie 40 years ago. So I thought Matilda was about a boxing kangaroo. Tim Minchin's Australian. You see what I did there? It's not that absurd. Outstanding Female Comedy Entertainment Performer, Fern Brady. Sandy Toksvig, Judy Love, Catherine Ryan, Sarah Milliken. I will abstain. Outstanding Male Comedy Entertainment Performer, Greg Davies, Joe Lycett, Munya Chihuahua, Lee Mack, Alex Horn. I'll also abstain. So you shouldn't vote if you're not familiar with people. And one more, another person who, no joke, I was talking about over this weekend. She is Maya Rudolph. You may remember Maya. She was upset with David Letterman and accused David Letterman of saying her name wrong when Dave clearly just said, my next guest is Maya Rudolph, which is why every time I say this woman's name for the rest of my life, I'm just going to deliberately drop an in front of it. M&M's is officially retiring their iconic candy mascots and replacing them with Maya Rudolph. Apparently there was a hubbub over the M&Ms. Who knew? Miss Green used to be the sexy M&M. Who knew? And then last year they decided to recreate Miss Green and turn her more inclusive. They put her in tennis shoes and toned down her eyelashes and took away references to gender. This is an M&M, of course. Well, the M&Ms have put out a statement. America, let's talk. In the last year, we've made some changes to our beloved spokes candies. We weren't sure if anyone would even notice, and we definitely didn't think it would break the internet. But now we get it. Even a candy's shoes can be polarizing, which was the last thing M&M's wanted, since we're all about bringing people together. Therefore, we've decided to take an indefinite pause from the spokes candies. In their place, we are proud to introduce a spokesperson America can agree on, the beloved Maya Rudolph. We are confident Miss Rudolph will champion the power. Pop-up ad! Come on, I'm reading this. Sorry, a pop-up ad happened. I could have edited that out. Where were we? We are confident Miss Rudolph will champion the power of fun to create a world where everyone feels they belong. Congratulations to Maya Rudolph. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows. See you tomorrow.
A boxer, a fighter, a kangaroo!
Meet Matilda, America's first kangaroo hero. And look who's in his corner. Elliot Gould, Roy Clark, Harry Gardino, Clive Robel, Karen Carlson, and Robert Mitchumas Parkhurst. You'll love Matilda. Even has Debbie and Pat Boone singing out. Matilda, what a knockout. Rated G.
Did you hear about the border collie who recycles trash when he's out on his walks? Or how about the bear that stole someone's Chick-fil-A, but good news, left the salad behind? Hi, I'm Johnny Mac, host of 5 Good News Stories. Don't worry, I have stories about humans too, like there's a woman who makes a living because she looks like Jim Carrey. It's my podcast. It's 5 Good News Stories. 5 Good News Stories, the number 5 Good News Stories, twice a week. 5 Good News Stories. Oh, and Shamrock Shakes are back too. Good news. 5 Good News Stories, wherever you get your shows.